type of guests who travel are changing. So keeping these things in mind, we designed this webinar to be informational to you. What can you expect from the shoulder season? And also we are giving you some actionable tactics that you can take away from this webinar and actually apply it to build a differentiated strategy for this shoulder season. And I have my colleague Diksha here. I will let her introduce briefly. Before that, my name is Gaurav Bundel. I am the product marketing manager here at PriceLabs. And my role is to make PriceLabs more accessible to users like you. With that, over to you, Diksha.
Thanks, Gaurav. Hey there. Hey, everyone. Hope all of you have been having a good day so far. I am Diksha. I am a solutions consultant here with PriceLabs, which means I typically help everybody on their onboarding phase. I typically help you get started and set up your properties in the beginning. So a lot of you are coming in from the mid-market segment. So if you have already signed up, we probably already have met. Or if you are yet to sign up, then I think you should go ahead so that we can meet again soon. But today we are focusing on the shoulder season, like Gaurav said. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what we are doing for now. Over to you, Gaurav.
Thanks so much, Diksha. All right. So setting a bit of context before we begin. A bit of housekeeping before I actually get into the meat of the presentation. This session is being recorded and it will be shared with you in a couple of days from now once the session ends. And if you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A box if you see in the Zoom webinar. And my colleagues Somil and Juan will be answering your questions there as well. So while we are presenting, you can also go ahead and ask your questions. There is a dedicated time allotted where we are going to take few of those questions and we will answer them live. But meanwhile, you can start pasting your questions about PriceLabs, about shoulder season in the Q&A box so that my colleagues can answer you them. All right. This is going to be a 1 hour long session. The first 45 minutes are going to be spent on discussing about the market context, what you can expect from how your metrics are changing, right? How your performance is doing, how your market's performance is doing, how you can actually track your competitors, what to do in PriceLabs and what not to do, especially that as well, right? So we are going to cover all of these details in this webinar. Okay, let me begin by sharing my screen. I've also turned on a quick poll for you to answer. So while I get my slides on screen, please answer that poll and then we can also factor in that while we are presenting the session. All right, hope everyone can see my screen. Is it visible, Diksha? Okay.
Yep, Gaurav. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So today we are going to look at how to capture demand pockets this shoulder season, and let's get into it. Before we get into the actual session, for your information, there are daily trainings being conducted by PriceLabs folks here, and we do take you through the basics of setting up an account, the advanced features, right? What pricing strategies you can do from your account. We also take you through like different products like market dashboards and portfolio analytics in detail. So you can sign up for those trainings with us. You will have a link in the chat as well, so you can go ahead and look at the relevant trainings for you and sign it up. All right. So today, like I said, the agenda is all about how to capture these demand pockets. What we are seeing in the market is the highs of the summer are gone. Then it's kind of beginning to slow down a bit. The demand is shifting more into pockets instead of an overall thing. You might find that hidden demand in events and holidays, in specific weekends. What the essential thing thing to know here is that demand is changing, but that doesn't mean it's going away. It's just in different patches. And what you need to do is your strategy to be flexible enough to identify the demand and actually capture it with your rules, right? Okay. So we are also going to look at the major KPIs that you need to track, what common mistakes to avoid while setting up your account. And then we are going to go deep into PriceLabs. So this is going to be a very hands-on webinar. We are going to show specifically what actions you can take in your PriceLabs account, what you need to analyze, and then how you can set up specific settings for your use case. All right. So why is the shoulder season, why is it differentiated shoulder season strategy matters, right? It's not actually the peak season, it's not low season, it's kind of in between where demand is shifting. You don't know where it is. But if you were setting up like high season rules, it's not going to fly in this season. And there are both low demand nights and sudden spike that you need to be flexible enough to catch. And it also looks different in every region. I spoke about like more northern hemisphere where summer was usually the high season. If you talk about Australia and New Zealand, they are coming out from winter, and they're beginning with the spring season. So they might still be getting bookings. In any case, the demand is shifting everywhere, and then you also need like flexibility to catch that. All right. So we have taken a specific market from Florida. This is a very recent data that we have captured from Kissimmee, USA, where we are seeing this is the occupancy graph, right? What we are seeing for the future months. And as you see, the red line here is the market occupancy this year, and the gray dotted line is the market occupancy seen last year. And you can easily see that it's pacing behind right now. So the demand is muted, right? But this graph does not tell the entire picture. There are still pockets of demand right now that you can see. For example, Labor Day weekend, we saw 18 out of 24 key US markets had more nights booked than last year. And it it did very well, right? So there is still guests are still booking. They are driven by holidays or local events or specific event occasions in mind, right? So that's what we are seeing overall. Yeah, the demand is going low, but that doesn't mean everything is like disappointing, right? You can still find some places of bookings and demands there. Okay, what does it mean for you? So demand is clustered in pockets, like I said. You need a differentiated strategy so that you don't miss out on bookings, right? The high season strategy will not fly here, and setting up rigid minimum stay restrictions or setting up expecting high prices is also like not the right step to take. You also need to have a right data to convince owners. I know you all are property managers and you face this problem frequently where owners are stuck on something that they have seen in the past and they want to replicate it this year as well. That's where data can help you, right? The data can help them convince to be a little bit more flexible than they are used to. So we are also going to show you later in the product how you can get that data and actually use it to convince your owners. And that's going to help you in those owner conversation a lot. And finally, if you all are on PriceLabs, right? And just being on PriceLabs already puts you bit ahead of other players in the market, right? You are already proactively doing something with your revenue strategy. And why do I say that? Because we calculate your prices daily. We bring in all the demand factors that you need. For example, seasonality, day of week trends, events and holidays, your market pacing, all the different factors that matter. They are already baked into your prices and pushed out to the booking channels that you're using, right? So in essence, you are already doing a lot of it. So you don't have to like reinvent the wheel with this shoulder season strategy. Having said that, there are some nuances that only you are aware of. We as PriceLabs are not aware of your market nuances. and you can bring those in. And we are going to show you in this session how you can bring those nuances in and how you can learn from them. And also like make it replicatable, right? So it does not have to be like every time you have to come up with something new. All right. So what kind of KPIs you need to measure? I think I don't need to like it's like preaching to the choir here, but you need to have your occupancy dialed in. You have your ADRs, RevPAR. So these are the expectation you already have from your performance, right? You need to be on top of it, of how it compares with the market and what is your current performance looking like. Based on that, that's going to help you what decisions you can take in your account, right? If you are already doing much better than occupancy, maybe you don't need to do anything, right? So keep those things in mind. Other two metrics here to track are length of stay. What is your market demands, right? What guests are booking, and we are going to show you later how you can see that in PriceLabs as well. And also the booking window. How far in advance bookings are made for your market, so that you don't start discounting unnecessarily previous to like when people tend to book those dates, right? So this is kind of like the basic things that you should be aware of. um, Up next is the common mistakes you need to avoid. So we see this a lot because we have a platform or a revenue management tool that is very flexible with a lot of setting, a lot of customization. We have heard that it tends to overwhelm a lot of people. And then what they do is like they see a knob and they turn it, right? They see a control and they want to tweak it. So that's where we want to say that this is not for like frequently updating your settings. For example, I talk about base price and minimum price, right? If you keep adjusting your base price a lot, you're not giving algorithm the room to play around and then actually stick to that, right? Your base price should be the average throughout one price that you should charge over the year, taking into account the high season and the low season, everything. And then our algorithm is going to add all those factors I spoke about on top of it. So that you can be in control, but still have like the ability to play around and actually change dynamically. Setting a high minimum price is also a common theme we see in our users, right? We recommend generally a 30% lower price for to set your minimum price than your base price. That gives us enough room to actually lower down to get those low season booking or the shoulder season booking, right? So that's an essential step for you to take to ensure that this is like done in your account. Another thing we see that rigid high season settings like 7-day minimums will not fly in shoulder season. Of course, the traveler behavior is changing. You do not want to have like very strict minimum that will not make you show up in the search results, right? So you want to be flexible while at the same time being relevant for your market. Last but not the least is setting too many manual overrides. Our algorithm depends on like how much room it has to play with. So then only it can optimize your prices and your stay settings, right? If you're setting too many manual overrides, it's of course taking precedence on our algorithm, but you are also losing out on how much you can gain or how much you can capture those low season or shoulder season bookings. All right. So with that, I hand it over to Diksha, who's going to take it through the product and how to actually set it up in your account. Diksha, over to you.
Thanks, Gaurav. So now that we have understood what a shoulder season is, what are the typical patterns of market for shoulder season, it's time to take a look at the real-time data to understand exactly what is happening in your market, especially in your neighborhood, and make sure we are prepared according to that. After that, we'll also make sure to go through some actionable insights that might be needed in order to make your properties ready for this season. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Uh, just a second. Okay, hope everyone can see my screen now. Gaurav, is it visible? Are we good?
Yes, Diksha, yes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. So in order to take a look at the data from your neighborhood, you can go onto your properties and then navigate to this neighborhood data section. Hold on a second to load for the data. Hmm. All right. So the first thing we are going to take a look at is what's happening in terms of the prices and the occupancy within your market. So this first graph we are looking at right now, these are the prices for your market for the next few months, and how are your properties prices positioned against the other part of the neighborhood. So if you see this black line, that is indicative of your prices as we are currently calculating within PriceLabs. And the different shaded area, they represent the different segments of the market. Like the gray one is the more economic segment, the slightly darker pink one, that's the mid-scale segment. And then the topmost one, that's the luxury segment of the market in terms of pricing. So we always want to make sure that based on whatever settings we have, our prices that are getting calculated are in the right segment of the market, because you do not want to be an mid-scale property and be priced at a much higher rate in a period when demand is typically going down. This will just lead to unnecessary lowering of occupancy. So it's important to keep a tab of this future prices chart to make sure that you are lying in the right segment of the market. Along with keeping a tab of your prices on a day-to-day basis, this chart also helps you figure out which are the periods, the small pockets of the market where the demand is typically rising. Because by default, on those dates, PriceLabs is going to make sure that you are priced a little bit higher. For example, we have specific events coming up in this neighborhood, Chicago Marathon. There's going to be a match, a football match, other things like this, which could typically impact the occupancy of your area. By default, we want to capitalize on those dates. So it is important to recognize these dates in advance and make sure we are prepared for this. Okay. Now that we know about the pricing, this is where you will also be able to see what is happening with the occupancy of your area for the next couple of days. So this occupancy chart essentially shows you what is the current occupancy within this market for the next 90 days and what was the situation last year. So this gives you an idea about whether the trend of market's occupancy is going down this year or is it rising. And because this is a day-to-day comparison, you can drag through different dates, especially if you're looking at certain events, to understand whether those events are projected to have an higher occupancy this year or are they really going down. So for example, let's say we are talking about 11th of October. In this market, last year, 11th of October had an 82% occupancy, and we are around a similar percentage this year as well. So you can expect that because of Chicago Marathon, there is going to be a good percentage of occupancy coming in. So as per that, we should be ready with our rates, which, as you can see, PriceLabs has taken care of for this market. Apart from this, it will also show you what you can expect in terms of occupancy on different dates of the market. So you will be able to see a dotted gray line on the very top of this chart, which represents what was the final occupancy on these dates for this market. So this gives you an idea about what you could expect for occupancy in this market. This probably means that more number of reservations are going to come in, even though they are going to come in later. So we need to make sure we are prepared in advance in order to be able to capitalize on these increasing occupancy for the shoulder season. So keep a tag of this peaks that you're seeing, make sure you're ready for them, make sure your prices are competitive, visible on your booking platforms so that you are able to get those occupancy. Now, as Gaurav was saying earlier, we know this is very difficult for you sometimes to communicate these things to your owner. Like there needs to be a data to support what you're saying, right? So if you have or if your owner have access to PriceLabs, then nothing like it. You could definitely go ahead and explain to them how this is are working in your market, and it's great. Otherwise, if you just want to get bite-sized information in a more precise manner, you can depend on our AI insights. So PriceLabs will infer everything that you are seeing in here for the next few months. It will change them into inputs that you understand. It will highlight specific dates that you need to take care of. It will highlight specific parts where the occupancy is weakening, it's going strong. So this is a data that you can share with your owners in order to make sure that you are together able to make a decision that is for, increasing your occupancy and to help you maximize your revenue. All right. Okay, now that we have seen the data of occupancy, we move on to understand a little bit about what has already happened in this market over the last some time. So this is a market history data wherein you will be able to fetch data for the last 2 years, and it gives you a concise information about what kind of occupancies, rates, booking window, and length of stay has been there in the market. And this gives you a very good idea about what you could also expect in the shoulder season this year. So for example, for this area, we are seeing that the shoulder season of September, October, November, they typically have had somewhere between 60 to 72% occupancy on an average. So we can expect a similar trend for this year as well, which means you can also aim to arrive at this occupancy for this year. So this is not anywhere near the high season where you would typically get, 95% occupancy. But even then, we can at least reach out a goal for having a 65% occupancy. So this just gives you an overview of what you are to expect in the market this year. But more than the occupancy itself, I would say the most important data that you should be taking from the market history is the market booking window. Now, the booking window is essentially showing you the average days before an actual check-in period that a customer is making a reservation. Now, typically for shoulder season, people do plan ahead of time, but not as ahead of time as they would for a typical high season. So you should always be aware of the booking window of your market for a shoulder season. And the main reason for that is to understand at what point of time should you go ahead and launch your strategies in order to increase your probability of getting a higher occupancy. So because the demand is tickling down a little bit, you might need some external push right now with your properties. You might need to add out a few promotions on your booking platforms. You might need to do additional advertisements or marketing activities in order to draw attention to your property. So keeping a track of the booking window for this period gives you a knowledge of when should you be starting this for this market. So if the booking window for September is say 30 days, then we should at least start targeting our customers for September bookings 30 to 32 days ahead of time. So keep a track of your booking window so that you're not losing out on the time when you should be ready with your best strategy for the shoulder season. Moving on, the market length of stay. This just highlights typically how many nights people make a reservation for in this market. So our main goal here is to make sure that we are visible to as many people's search engines as possible, because that is what is going to increase our chance of getting the occupancy. If we are too inflexible with our length of stays, if we are going higher than this, we might be losing out visibility to those people that are trying to make, shorter term reservation. Especially if you have typically had really high length of stay, you will realize in shoulder season, the type of people that are trying to make reservation can vary greatly from the vacationers who typically tend to stay longer terms. So in order to not miss out the customers, we need to be a little bit more flexible. As long as we are exactly at the average length or a little bit below than that, I think it gives your property a good visibility on the booking platforms, and that can help you stay on top of your occupancy. Okay, now the last thing about market history, the market average daily rate. So these are the kind of rates that you can expect to see for your shoulder season. So if you are typically a lot above these average rates, you might be losing out on some occupancy. And if you are below these rates, two below these rates rather, then you might be losing out on the chance to maximize a little bit of revenue. So try to aim to be somewhere around these average rates for your market of the shoulder season, and that should give you a good competitive edge in the market. Okay, now, uh, so far we have only looked at what is happening overall in your entire neighborhood, but I'm sure you are always also trying to keep a track of specific properties in your neighborhood who you feel are typically your competitors. Now, it's important to identify who our real competitors in the market are and to make sure we are priced competitively against them. Because when we are moving into a shoulder season, a lot of the properties now become available in the market for a more reasonable price. And we want to make sure we are ahead of the game by making sure our prices are the most competitive ones. So, if you already have a list of your own competitors that you are aware of in the neighborhood, you can easily just scroll around the map, identify these competitors by hovering on top of the dots, and then add them to the comp calendar. Coming to that in a while. But if you still haven't figured out who your real competitors are, or if you're still trying to do a deep dive, you can always click on top of these blue links and it will carry you onto the Airbnb page where you will be able to get a complete overview of the property. Now, once you have identified your competitors, you can do add to comp calendar over here, which essentially adds your competitor's entire rate plan for the next few months over here in this table form. So this basically helps you keep a track of day-to-day prices as well as the minimum number of nights that your competitors have put up right now on the Airbnb platform. This is what the customer is going to see when they search for a property in your area. So this also helps you get a small understanding of on what nights properties in this areas are booked out. So you can see some small diagonal crosses, grayed out dates. So this also gives you a good understanding of what people are willing to pay for similar properties in this area right now. So keep a track of your own competitors and make sure that you are more competitively priced so that you can win over those customers. Okay, so far we just looked at the data that you can excavate here from within PriceLabs for your market to make sure you're on top of the game. But it always is very important to make sure that the rates that you're seeing on your calendar should match your expectation as well as what people are willing to pay in this market. So, like Gaurav was explaining earlier, PriceLabs' analytics already does the thing of, making sure your adjustments are up to mark in this market because we are tickling down a little bit on occupancy and we have idea from the past couple of years data that the demand is now lowering out. By default, we'll try to lower down your rates. But sometimes when you tend to have a specific base price and it's not really working out too well for specific seasons like this, we also don't want to mess around with the default base price because it could potentially harm our rates for future high dates. And we do not want to end up with bookings for our future dates at a low price, which could be, much more. So we need to make sure our prices are set up well for for this current period. We also need to keep a tab of what is happening with our own properties occupancy for this period. So in here within PriceLabs, you actually get the listing metrics where you can track your own occupancy against the market's occupancy for the next few periods. So if you feel that you are lagging behind in terms of occupancy, this might be the time to do a slight bit of customization. So as some of you or all of you may be aware that by default, PriceLabs does actually help to set up your prices based on your own property's occupancy. So typically, we check what is the number of reservations that you have over the next 2 months. And based on that, if you have very less occupancy, we try to keep your prices low. And more occupancy that you start getting, we try to increase your prices so you can maximize your revenue. But in a period like this, if you feel our prices are not low enough or our occupancy is lagging far behind in the market, it might be a good time to test out some more aggressive settings. So you can switch from a Price Labs default to a aggressive discounting model, where with lower occupancy, we discount you even more than we typically do with default. Or if you're up for it, a super aggressive discounting might also work out great for you. So depending on how much gap is there between your occupancy and your neighborhood's occupancy, you can choose which one works out best for you. Now, once you have tackled the occupancy part, we move on to tackling the prices part that I was talking about earlier. So let's say you feel with these current base prices and minimum prices, you think that you are still a little bit high on the market. You still feel like you might be losing out on some occupancy because you're on the higher side. So for this, we have something called as a custom seasonal profile. So we'll just go to our edit option, all customizations, custom season profile. Okay. So custom season profiles are created to handle these pockets of regions specifically, where you can have a completely different base price and a completely different minimum price for a specific period of time. Now, once you are aware that these X to Z months are your shoulder season in your area, you can set up a profile for the shoulder season where you create out the date range, just highlight the date range when you want this change to happen. You can have a slightly lower base price because ultimately a lower base price means you would eventually end up with slightly lower rates. Also, in order to make sure there is enough room for the analytics to do its task, you should be lowering out your minimum prices a little bit. And this will allow more of those last minute reservations to come in as well. So you can have a completely different profile for the shoulder season period. And once you set it up, once the custom seasonal profile is set up, the best part is that you don't have to do it again and again every single year. It just makes sure that even for next year shoulder season, the year after that, you are prepared well ahead of time. All right. Now, once we have set up our custom seasonal profile, the last thing to check is, are we flexible enough with our minimum stays? So a lot of you might know that PriceLabs has recently started recommending minimum stays dynamically as well, where we analyze the market, we see how many length of stay is currently going, like what is the average length of stay for your market right now. And based on that, we chalk out the settings for you by default. And with this particular setting, the best part is that once you move into the shoulder season, by default, when we notice other by default, when we analyze that the market's length of stay is going down, we will bring down your length of stay as well. Another advantage to having this kind of a setting, the recommended stay settings of PriceLabs, is that this is adaptive to your own property's occupancy as well. And by that, what we mean is if PriceLab sees that your property's occupancy is potentially lower than the market by a few percentage, we will try to keep your minimum stay even lower than what is going on an average in the market. So this just helps to make sure that we are increasing your probability of getting those occupancy, the lower low date bookings and higher occupancy. But of course, even with this, you would always have a control over what is the absolute minimum that you are willing to let your customers book for. Now, having said this recommended settings, if you still feel there is a little bit more need to customize your minimum stay, or let's say you just want to have more control over it for this period, you could move back to this custom seasonal profile and then set up a custom stay restriction just for this period as well. For example, in here, you would also see a minimum stay profile, which you can create, and this would apply only to the date range that we create the shoulder season for. This one will have your typical stay settings of, your default minimum stay. You can open up the orphan gaps to be even to make sure you are enabling the gaps to be booked as well. You can add in shorter last minute bookings. So this will overall help you increase the flexibility of at least getting those customers that are trying to look for shorter stays in this period for the area. All right. So these are the three main things. After taking a look at your entire neighborhood's data, just make sure that you are up to date with your prices. Your prices should be competitive with your own competitors, plus with the whole market. Make sure that if you feel your occupancy is lagging behind, then you go a little bit more aggressive on the pricing. And also make sure that you are more flexible with how many nights do you typically allow people to book. With that, I will pass it on to Gaurav.
Thank you so much, Diksha. Thanks a lot. So, so with that, we get to the end of the session. I'm just going to recap what we covered today. So, we talked about shoulder season, what it means for you, uh, right? The occupancy is going down from your high season, or if you're coming from a low season, it's going up, but not by that much. And the ADRs and the other metrics are also going down a bit, right? So you want that demand you want to capture that hidden demand, right? And we saw by being flexible and by being proactive, you can do that, right? So you can make that challenge of stroller season into an opportunity. So we also looked at how you want to analyze how you are standing against your market, whether it's your own occupancy which is at fault or whether it's the whole market that's going down, right? So you want to be aware of that. Second, we also looked at how to track your specific competitors. You might have a very unique property and you might not compare to the overall market. So how do you track those specific competitors and see what they are doing in this shoulder season, right? And then thirdly, we looked at the toolkits, like Diksha mentioned, all the different tools that we have at hand to make the strategy more relevant for your property. So you can take the algorithms help to do a lot of it because we are applying a lot of smart and intelligent defaults that are not static, they change, right? So we are already doing that. But if you want more control, you also have those options. You don't have to move all the knobs and change all the settings. If you have a specific reason to, you have that other control as well. Ideally, 80 to 90% of your strategy is already taken care of by being with PriceLabs. That rest 10 to 15%, depending on your market, you can do that with the tools that we highlighted today. All right. So now we are going to go into the Q&A part of this webinar. We have a few of the questions that are marked to be answered live. I'm going to take it up one by one, and Dikshan and I will answer them one by one. All right. Okay, so first one, Rafael asks, is there a way for us to see how many listings are in those charts? I'm guessing Rafael is talking about the competitor map. Diksha, you should. Is it possible for you to reshare that?
Yeah, hold up a second. I'll just reshare. All right. So in the neighborhood data tab, all of the properties that we are looking at just within this tab, you can see from here under the manage competitors section. Typically, we aim to bring in about 300 properties, data from 300 properties in and around your neighborhood in order to give you this reference data. So that's like a rough idea of the numbers, but all of the properties that we are fetching, you will be able to see here in manage competitors and the drop down section.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. I think that answers the questions. A question of Dawn. I keep getting messages from Airbnb and VRBO wanting me to add discounts with them, explicitly saying they are promoting properties that have them. Obviously, that's not possible using PriceLabs. Is there anything you can do to increase visibility on those platforms? Um, think it's about promotions and discounts and how they see in the OTAs, right? Diksha, do you have an answer for this?
Yes. So all of the discounts that you apply on VRBO, Airbnb, or any other booking platform, they get applied on top of your price labs rate. Now, if you are going ahead with a strategy of providing discounts within your booking platform, it might help to stay a little bit higher in this particular chart for your rates. And by that, what I mean is you should take these discounts into account when setting up your custom seasonal profiles base price. So if you would want these kind of rates along with the discount in the market, in your booking platform, you need to set a typically higher base price. And then once those discounts from booking platform get applied on these rates, your final revenue gets balanced out. So it's not possible to apply any discounts though here within PriceLabs.
I hope that answers your question, Dawn. So we have a question from Michelle. Is this dynamic min stay setting on request? I believe you're talking about the PriceLabs recommended settings that Diksha showed. Uh, Michelle, it's a new feature that we have launched. It rolled out like I think 2 months back. So it's called dynamic minstay, and it's shown in your minstay settings. Diksha, if you could navigate to that particular drop down, we'll be able to see that in action as well. So
Yes.
we already calculate your the minstay that we are getting from your market, and we have our recommendation built into it. If you select this price tabs recommended option from the drop down, you don't have to change much, right? Your mainstay is settings are already going to be like updated based on our recalculations, and you'll be able to like tide over most of the use cases for you, right? You don't have to specially select like a custom seasonal profile or set up something else. It is already going to change your dynamic mainstay relevant to your market, relevant to the time where we are in the year, right? Just like we have been doing for your prices, we have also done this for your minimum stay settings. So by choosing this, you just give that control to us, and then our algorithm decide what's best for you. And you can also decide, like it's not like a black box. You can also give us the relevant settings that you won't like us to go below, so you can define your minimum, lowest minimum and highest minimum. So we keep it within that range and will not like should not cost you. So already we are taking care of that from you. So once you do that, you'll be able to like it's available for everyone. It's not on request. So you can just go ahead and select in the drop down. You can just select price that's recommended. All right. Veena asks, how can we use AI to decide on the base price in the custom seasonal profile? I believe, Veena, we do not have that option to choose a base price for your custom seasonal profile. We have very comprehensive base price help tool, which is going to show you how it looks like for the average price of the whole year, not specifically to us custom seasonal profile, because custom seasonal profile by definition is going to be your custom dates, right? It's not something that we are calculating. It's something that you are putting it on top of what our algorithm is recommending. So we don't have recommendation for them, but you can still choose the help me choose a base price and then see what kind of base price is being applied from your market. Diksha, anything to add to that?
Not really. I think you are absolutely right, Gaurav. By definition, seasonal profile are custom to the dates that you want. So there is really no additional help in that section to help you decide. It's overall based on your instincts, on what you are expecting the prices to be for that date range. So just use that in order to set up a good base price. And also, these are all settings that you can edit out anytime. So you can play around with a couple of base price and compare your rates in the neighborhood data future prices chart to see if you're in the right position. Once you figure out that base price, you can stick to it.
All right. Thank you. And I'm going to just share the results of the poll. I think we got a varied uh, list of like what people are experiencing shoulder season right now, how many are like it's on the horizon for them, and then for some it's not there, not really there because they don't have a market that has a particular shoulder season. People are also struggling with occupancy and demand. I think that's the main reason why it's the shoulder season, not the it's not very low as well, it's not very high as well. It's kind of going down from your highs. Getting owners to agree to flexible strategies is again a common pinpoint. We also have what type of actions they would like to do is they would like to adjust pricing and offering discounts, right? That's the strategy that we also spoke about by talking about the custom seasonal profiles and all the different settings that we have. So I hope this information was helpful for you as well. All right, we still have like 13 more minutes to go, so we can answer some of other questions as well. One interesting question we got from Oliver was on the upcoming soccer FIFA World Cup. This is a little bit different from the context of this webinar, but we'll still answer like in terms of events and holidays, PriceLabs already has systems in place to identify these high demand, high impact events in your market. And we already put that into your calendar. If I can request you, Diksha, to just go show the events and holiday tab where it is on the pricing calendar on the right
Right.
side.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can check for events and holidays in your market. Okay. Yeah. So all of the events that have already been added in, you will get a list of that, and you also get an idea of the average prices we are suggesting for this period. And on
Awesome.
top of that, so sorry. If you still
Yeah.
feel you need to maybe adjust the rates a little bit more, if you feel maybe we are downplaying the demand, you could also add in your feedback so the team can check this from the back end, see if there is any particular adjustments needed, and update that onto calendar for this area.
Yeah, that's a great point, Diksha. We are not aware of all the different nuances that go into your market, right? So that you will be the best judge of it, and we have given you the way to like tell our team, or if you need to tweak whatever we are recommending, you can do that easily. All right, let me check for any other questions. How can we see our ADR achieved compared to the market? Amanda asks. Diksha, can you show the pricing dashboard? This.
Right. Hold on a second.
I think you looked at the market history tab as well, right? That also had the ADR, and we spoke about it.
Right. So, yeah. So these are the historic data that have been, collected for the past 2 years, and based on that, you can see the average for the last 2 years. Plus, you get an idea about what the averages for different months have been year on year. But I would also say we have a very amazing dashboard called Market Dashboard. So if you are really looking at a market in particular, if you have a very expanded area that you want to understand about, I would highly recommend searching for like creating a market dashboard, because that would give you a far more expanded view of what you see here in market history. It'll give you an average ADR idea about the nearby properties, specific locations, specific bedroom counts. if your goal is to understand if specific type of amenity having properties, what kind of ADR did they achieve, you'll also be able to track that in the market dashboard. So you can use this neighborhood data for it, but if you're really looking for a deep dive, I would highly suggest using a market dashboard.
All right. Thanks, Diksha. I think that's an important point. Somebody asked about ComSet and adding competitors as well. Like the competitor calendar that you see, what we presented today is kind of a snapshot of a very small snapshot of market dashboard, which is a much larger tool, and it has got like great filters that you can apply and then choose specific competitors. You can select how many ratings and reviews they have, what kind of minimum length of stay they charge, right? You can do that for a wide range of properties. We have like multiple plans for that. So it's a standalone product. It's not in your dynamic pricing subscription. It's a standalone product which has like a different tiers of how many properties you want, either 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, like more than that, right? So you can actually drill down into like each market very minutely, put like granular filters based on the quality of the listings, and then compare them. The best part about having custom comp sets is then you can bring that custom comp set here in your neighborhood data tab and compare your performance against it. So if you could you please scroll up, Diksha, we'll show where they can set up that custom comp set as well here in neighborhood data tab. So once you
Yeah.
create it on market dashboard, we can change how we are showing this data to you in the neighborhood data tab. You click on the settings gear icon and click on this drop down, select market dashboard. Once you do that, you'll be able to select that custom comp set that you create in market dashboard here. And all of this data is going to be replaced with that specific concept that you have created. You have already handpicked those listings to compare against. You're not comparing generally to overall all the market, all the listings in your market. You have specifically handpicked those properties and you're comparing against them. That's a great way to do that and bring in like much better insights for your specific property. Right. I see the listing optimizer button on your demo menu. I don't have this button in my account. Can you help, please? It's kind of like a sneak peek here. We are not really at the liberty to share that right now. Kind of, we are testing inside out, but it's going to be something big. So stay tuned to that. Since you have the eagle eyes to see that, I think you should have wait for it. You'll soon hear from us about it. All right. With that, I think that's it. If we have no other questions, we can go ahead and end the call. Amanda asks, so at the moment I can see neighborhood data and hotel data, but not alongside my data. Separately, I can see my booking insights, but how can I see my booking insights alongside the market? Um, Not sure I get that question, Amanda. Do you want to see your so you see your settings that we are pushing for your booking channels in these charts. You have that data. All right.
Uh, I think Amanda has mentioned about the daily rates in the future prices chart. I believe that's what she's talking about, where she's able to compare the future prices, so her daily rates, and then the occupancy against the whole market, but not the rest of the data. So, yeah, again, Amanda, with the neighborhood data, for now, we are only providing a day-to-day comparison of your daily rates and occupancy. For the other more deep dive analysis, like we mentioned earlier, market dashboard might be a good tool where you would be able to see. But again, if you're looking just for a precise comparison, it might not be possible. Although a little bit here on competitor calendar, you could also see your minimum stay versus what the other competitors in this market are doing, although it does not get highlighted in the kind of graph that we currently have for future prices and occupancy. I believe if that's what you were looking for, so we currently just have it for future prices and of the occupancy.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Diksha. Thank you all for joining this session. I hope this was informative for you. Sorry, Veena has raised her hand. Veena, is there a question? Sorry. Okay. I think Veena, in the UK, there is a 90-day rule, which means a lot of listings are duplicated to allow for their calendar to be available for the entire year. This can affect the validity of the listing data. Can we filter for against this?
Uh, I can take that up actually.
Mm.
So, Veena, when we are doing the analysis of the market, we try to weed out any such fake listings where we see that potentially there hasn't been enough number of active days in the market, or where we see that the prices are extremely exaggerated in active properties. So things like that are already weeded out when we are analyzing the data to make sure it is as accurate as possible. Despite this, if you are still able to spot a few of these listings in your neighborhood data, you can report it to us so that we can take it off from your neighborhood as well as the overall algorithm. So that even helps us improve our own algorithm. But by default, we always make sure we are weeding out any duplicate listings that are coming out of the exact same area, inactive properties, property having exorbitant rate for your area, which makes them fake. So you can rest assured that the algorithm is already taking care of it.
Thanks, Diksha. I think we'll take one more question on the booking window. So one is asking like we want to explain the booking window data again and what actions we can do with that. Diksha, do you want to just go ahead and show the booking history tab where we saw the booking window?
Yes. So this will be available here within your market history section. So the booking window, as I mentioned earlier, for different months, it essentially is showing you how many days ahead of the actual checking are people making a reservation. So this is just looking at the dates when you start getting reservation for different months of the year. For example, if we say that for September, the booking window was 34 days in 2024. It means on an average, people were making a reservation at least a month ahead of time for September. So this data for any period of time is relevant because you need to be sure that your prices are up to date for these months of your calendar. So if September people are trying to book at least a month ahead of time, you need to make sure that before that month your prices are extremely ready for the market. Your minimum stays are accurate to what you could expect people to stay for in this time. So this is basically, and the way we see it here within PriceLabs is that before the booking window, it gives us the time where we could aim for a slightly higher revenue by keeping the prices high. But once we have entered the booking window period, we need to make sure we are not too high because that could lose out on occupancy. Like I said, this is already taken into account when we are calculating your rates, when we are trying to decrease your rates for last minute and so on. But in a shoulder season, this also becomes very relevant where you could potentially need to have external factors like advertisements and discounts needed to be set up in order to get you the shoulder season booking. So I hope that helps explain like what booking window
Diksha,
is. And
yes. Yes, that truly does. I think Heather is also asking why would I start a promotion when the software is supposed to modulate that. So Heather, we are already doing that, right? Like we showed in occupancy-based adjustment, depending on your occupancy, we are already applying discounts to your prices as we get closer to a specific date, right? The closer we are to a specific date, the more discounts we are giving if your property has not been booked, right? Depending on the occupancy of that. So we are already taking that into account. This is just to have make you aware if you want to have owner conversations, right? Like Diksha said, if you want to run promotions, right? If you're still not getting bookings, this data comes in handy then. But for your prices, those are already taken into account.